And I am recording.
Great.
Hi, Dan.
Great.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Great. Okay. Welcome everybody. This August 4th, 2020 Caroline Town Board Agenda Meeting. It's being held by Zoom because of the COVID shutdown, and it is being recorded, and we will be posting it to the website along with the minutes. So with that said, I would like to open the meeting for opportunity for comments to the board at privilege of the floor. And the way we're doing that during with Zoom is, I think if you go down, you can raise your blue Zoom hand, and then John will unmute you and speak.
Yeah,
So,
so, so to find your blue Zoom hand, you go to participants and open the participants panel, and then at the bottom of the panel, there's a button that says raise hand, for those who are not familiar.
yeah, thank you. And there's oh, it went away.
You need to raise your hand up.
Yeah.
You said there's a button to raise hand.
And if people could mute themselves, that would be helpful.
Yeah, there's some kind of feedback. So somebody was asking about raising the hand. I think it's down in the participants rectangle on the right side of your screen. There should be a button for raising the hand. Click on one of those cells. Great. So, okay. So, okay. So I see Mary Alice at the top of the list.
That's correct.
Okay. So. Okay, Mary Alice.
My connection here is very, very tenuous, but I hope I get to register my complete agreement and enthusiasm to the town entering into the put the Thomas Road wetland into conservation area. It's a really important place, and it backs up on another Finger Lakes Trust area by Katie Payne, and it would be a continuous corridor that we badly need. And so I just want to say, I sure hope that the town will enter into this proposed agreement, and I'm all for it. Thank you for all your hard work. I hope I'm able to stay on. We haven't been getting reception all day. So you hear me, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you, Mary
Hear
Alice.
and see you, Mary Alice.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Next up, Lizzie Yvette.
Yep.
Okay, I'm Lizzie Ebbett. I usually go in these settings by my real name, which is Elisa Ebbett, and I've been a resident of Caroline for 45 years up on Bald Hill. I want to say I'm very appreciative of the work you do as members of the town board, and I can well imagine that your job has been made even more difficult by all the issues, the pandemic, the climate crisis, racism, the elections, all these things that consume all of us these days. And even though they don't relate directly to your job, they must compete with the time and energy you devote to your job. I have two issues I would like you to be prepared to address at next week's board meeting. The first is I would like to know what the board has been doing since the enactment several months ago of the moratorium on actions subject to site plan or subdivision review. So I'd like to know what, if anything, the board has done to consider and actively address the wishes expressed by 788 people who signed a petition stating their opposition to the proposed commercial development on the corner of Landon Road and Route 79. That is not in any way compatible with the vision of the future of the town as detailed in the comprehensive plan currently in its final draft stages by the planning board. And I hope that the residents of Caroline can expect a report from you on what you've been doing since the moratorium was put into effect, as the clock is ticking on the finite period of 180 days. The second thing is that I would like to request that the board pursue the suggestion made by some residents during the hearing about the erection of the cell phone tower on Bald Hill Road, that the town come up with a plan for the siting of future cell phone towers that will no doubt be needed to provide necessary coverage, that takes into account the topography of Caroline while avoiding the kind of proximity to people's homes that occurred on Bald Hill. I would hate to see any other parts of our town be subjected to the unpleasant experience that the residents on Bald Hill have endured over the course of the past 5 months due to a process in which, just by chance, AT&T found a landowner who was willing to have a cell phone tower erected on her land without ever considering how her neighbors might be affected by it. So I look forward to your adding these two items to the next week's agenda. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Doug is up next.
Yes. Let's see. Go ahead, Doug.
Hi, I'm Doug Keefe. I'm fire chief in Speedsville. And we've heard some talk about, or rumors about, possibility of changing the name of Speedsville and Speed Hill Road. I'd like to know how far those discussions have progressed within the town board. Has a petition been made to the state for a name change? And method of letting, if this was indeed going to be pursued, how are we going to know about it? I have a bunch of other questions, but this is not really a question period, but I'm here with other residents, and we either need to stop the rumor mill or get to the bottom of what's going on. I hope you understand that. Rumors are the worst thing that can happen. So it just breeds distrust, and we don't need that. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Doug. And I will just offer that at our July business meeting, we had a discussion of inclusivity and diversity, and during that discussion, board members brought up that there were names in Caroline associated with some of the history in Caroline, but right now there's been no board activity to change the name. So, and I don't know if any other board members want to speak. Welcome to do so.
Yeah, I would speak to it as well, Mark, just to say that we did speak about it a bit at last month's meeting. I think a little bit at a previous meeting as well. And I just want to point out that I have been approached by community members about the idea. And in fact, I think at one of our public statement meetings, somebody from the town raised the issue as well. So it's not just something that originated at the board, although we did discuss it last week. But again, as you say, there's not been an action of any sort taken at this point. It is something that's been raised and is on our radar. And to further answer Doug's question, we certainly, I don't want to speak for the board, but I would suspect that we're all on the same page with this, that if and when anything were to be done, we would engage the community on it. It wouldn't just be a decision by the board to move ahead on something like this. So.
Yeah, I agree with that, Irene. My statement last month at the last month's business meeting, intent was that, in the discussion, there was the opinion or statement that any kind of change like that should come from the community. And so I still feel that way. And so, I think it needs to come from the Speedsville community or whatever community if we were to entertain such a thing. It's not, I also want to say that as far as the inclusivity and diversity discussion, I really felt like, we've talked before about having some sort of memorial site or some sort of kiosk that would tell about the history in Caroline. But so I think that's more important than promulgating understanding. So.
And I just like to ask that, we wouldn't undertake anything like this at all without a broad discussion across the community.
Absolutely.
And particularly with the residents, from my point of view. Yeah. So it's unfortunate that there are rumors floating that this is happening. It's something that well could come under discussion if it's generated by the public, but we would certainly, I think all of us would be unanimous that we wouldn't possibly even consider such a thing without having public discussions about it, especially with the residents of Speedsville.
Absolutely, what they said.
Great. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, John. Yep. Okay. I'm sorry. So
Catherine
now,
is up next.
Sure.
Sure. Thank you. Oops. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. So thanks. So I wanted to see what the start date of the moratorium was, and I will say that I had a bit of trouble finding it. There's a revised moratorium draft posted on the website dated June 2nd, with the start date noted as immediately. And then there's also a letter dated June 8th from the Department of Planning and Sustainability regarding the moratorium's approval. I don't personally know what the official start date is, but assuming it was within the week of that letter, we're now 2 months out. So let's then consider that we have a 120-day moratorium now. I'm speaking tonight to ask what steps the town board will be taking in the next 120 days and put this very simple question on record. The moratorium law has been enacted for the purpose of considering how best to address development in the town. There is absolutely nothing to state that this consideration must not begin until the current comprehensive plan is adopted, given that this is an ongoing responsibility and role of town leadership. In fact, waiting would compromise the very intent of the 180, now 120 days that are before us. By the time the comprehensive plan is adopted, we will likely be at 100 days or less. To put this in town board time, that's approximately 3 weeks of meetings. Not very much time to consider, develop, and enact policy to protect our town. We already know that there is overwhelming community support for additional consideration and action related to preservation of our town's values and vision related to development. The existing comprehensive plan is abundantly clear in articulating these values, and it is unquestionable that existing local law is insufficient in addressing concerns related to development in our town. Furthermore, one single action, whether zoning, formula business restrictions, or other strategies, will not be sufficient to address the concerns of all Caroline residents. I agree with the petitioners against the moratorium, who state that it's not the town board's job to decide what businesses can be here. That's true. It's the board's job to defend the comprehensive plan, old, new, all versions of it, it doesn't matter, and uphold town values, visions, and goals. Where development is concerned, this means assessing whether a business's behavior, appearance, and impact is consistent with the character of the town. Therefore, a thoughtful combination of initiatives will be required, and this takes time. Time that was provided by the moratorium, but is slipping away more quickly than some may realize. The actions that are prohibited prior to adoption of the new comprehensive plan relate to permits and approval of new projects. What is not prohibited is engagement by elected town leaders in proactive steps to protect, preserve, and promote our town related to development interests. To reiterate the question I raised initially tonight, what is the town board going to be doing in the remaining 120 days to fight for our town's values related to development? A new comprehensive plan, as great as it is, will not be some magic bullet towards identifying and implementing such action. I want to reiterate that residents have said loudly and clearly they are with you, they support you, and they are not willing to back down out of fear. I personally hope that you feel the same way, and I urge you to take action. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. The moratorium law was passed on June 10th, so that was the start date. So.
I would like to just add, if it's okay, since I'm the board liaison to the planning board, that, I mean, Catherine does understand very well that, at least I've been working very actively with the planning board to maintain a schedule for getting the revised comprehensive plan finished, which I'll report on later. And that's certainly part of the responsibilities of the board. And that was articulated in the moratorium as the logic for the moratorium, is to get the revised comprehensive plan done so we can be guided by it. So I do hope that the public understands that the board has been actively engaged in this process and is ready to move it forward as rapidly as possible.
Thank you, Tim. Great. Thanks, everybody, for your input, and we will take that into consideration. Are there any other?
Mary Ellis would like to speak again, Mark.
Okay. I think usually we allow one statement of privilege to the floor, but
It's up to you.
yeah.
I think she just never took her hand down, John.
I think so too.
You have to click it, Mary Ellis. You have to click your hand again.
Anybody there? Can you hear? Can you hear me?
It
Yeah,
sounds like Jonathan wants to
sound like
speak.
Mary Alice.
Oh, is it Jonathan wants to speak? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I just wanted to add my support for doing the getting the wetland in, having the town partner with the land trust and put that aside in perpetuity. I think that the town should be pleased to have a partner like that really knows this area and what is and is not a valuable parcel of land. And for them to be ready to put up the funds to do that, I think says a lot, because they have a lot of expertise. I myself have been very familiar with that wetland because I know some of the people who live adjacent to it. And it's a beautiful place. We see beaver, we see all kinds of waterfowl, and it's a unique habitat in that, you know, so many wetlands like that have been developed and filled, and this one is still pretty intact. So I think it's very much worth saving, and I would urge the board to enter into the partnership as proposed. And that's it. I don't think I need to tell you the ABCs of wetlands.
Thank you, Jeff.
That-
Good, Russell.
Great. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on. I don't have any additions or deletions, I don't think. And I will open the meeting for reports from committee members.
Maybe I'll begin just because I've already spoken. The planning board is meeting on Thursday at 6 o'clock by a Zoom meeting. I believe that it's fair to anticipate that probably as a result of that meeting, we might have a final draft of the revised comprehensive plan. Or if not, it would happen within days. So probably the planning board will schedule a public hearing about that sometime in August, which then would permit us as a board to receive it sometime after that and have public hearings. So ideally we'll be able to move forward with this very rapidly, and then from my perspective be guided by its recommendations.
Great. Thanks, Tim. Anyone else?
Sure, I can talk. I continue to hear from people on two issues, the truck traffic and speeds and danger on Coddington Road, which has been problematic. I actually had an almost incident the other day myself. There's a lot of truck traffic on the road. The shoulder is in very bad shape, and so, you know, you really can't even swing wide if a truck is coming down. It's a pretty dangerous situation. I believe Dan Klein, and Dan confirmed this, but I think you said that the plan is still in the works to resurface the entire of Coddington Road this year.
No, it's the two to 4 miles on the south end.
2 to 4 miles on the south end. So from the county border,
Yes,
to where?
as far as they can get, up to 4 miles, which is most of Caroline.
Okay, I'll take it. So, and do you know when that's intended to start?
It should be starting any moment.
Good. Okay. So anyhow, that's one issue that I continue to hear from people about. The other issue, and it, you know, it's the truck traffic and the speed both. I think the speed is actually likely to get worse once it's repaved because, you know, smooth new surface and nice wide shoulders tends to promote even higher speed traffic. The truck traffic in part is something, you know, it's good news as compared to when we were having truck traffic from the gravel mine taking White Church Road, which is not built to endure truck traffic. So in some respects, it's good that they're using the roads that we want them to. But also happening is more and more 18-wheelers, which I don't understand why Coddington Road has become a thoroughfare for 18-wheelers. You know, after the paving is done, and Dan, whatever support you can give to this to see if we can get another traffic study done. There was one, I think it was in 2017 or 18. So, you know, fairly recent, and I know they don't like to just set up and do these, but I'm hearing from a lot of people that there's, you know, been a significant change. So hopefully we can try and get a revised traffic study done of who's using the road and for what, and what kind of vehicles and what speeds and what hours. And the other issue that I continue to hear from also, this is same old, but it's a real concern, is broadband and the lack of internet access. There's parents who have kids and, not wanting to send them to school and needing to find ways to do teleschool, and they don't have the bandwidth to do it. And so I continue to look into options. I've continued to have conversations with Hafele. They did finally send me the maps that I've been hoping, because I knew they existed, of what the areas that were available. And then when Charter said they're gonna, do broadband throughout the state, those areas were no longer, supposedly going to be covered, but they haven't been covered. Anyhow, there is a program being offered at the FCC has mapped out and is offering a new round of proposals for broadband coverage. Hafele is interested in applying. That happens in October. What he did say, though, is, partly I had wanted the maps so I could go to the Public Service Commission and say, hey, look, here's what was supposed to happen. It didn't. And he said that if we do that, if we go and put up a fight at PSC to try and, say, get Spectrum in, that he's not going to apply. And I understand that, that he wouldn't apply for the federal funding because, he's not positioned well to have to compete with Spectrum on that. So that's one thing. I also, through my work on the NYSEG rate case, I learned of another kind of technology that I've started to look into called a mesh network, MESH network. So far, I've seen some stuff that looks kind of fun and interesting for the do-it-yourselfers who have done this in their communities, but I talked to somebody that we used before who evaluated back when we were looking at the WiMAX system with Clarity Connect, an engineer who's been in the business for a really long time, and he cautioned against going with something like a mesh network. But he thought he knew of somebody else who might be able to do some sort of fiber and nodes or something. So anyhow, continuing to explore options. We've also been in touch with the USDA to see what options there might be forthcoming if and when there's ever more funding for the COVID challenges. So stay tuned. The unfortunate thing is there's nothing in the immediate horizon in the way of a solution for parents in our area who have kids in school and feel uncomfortable sending their kids to school. I can certainly understand and relate to that. And it's a horrible, horrible dilemma that they're in. So
Irene,
yeah.
I'll just chime in here briefly and maybe let Dan follow up in his report. But there has, and I think you probably know this anyway, but the deficiencies that of broadband for residents in rural areas has become really just laid bare during the pandemic and the need. So there's a lot of conversation, and just recently Joel Gagnon and Danby, so he and I were talking, and then he recently proposed forming a committee that would be, he would invite people from Danby, Caroline, Newfield, maybe Enfield, to work on this. And then I spoke with Dan about it, and he had emailed me separately, and he'd spoken with a resident who was also concerned about broadband. So he said, what's going on, or what do you recommend? So the point I'm trying to make is it's becoming clear that it's a countywide at minimum issue.
It's statewide.
No, I understand.
Something on the order of 80,000 people upstate New York that don't.
Right, and I know. So I'm just pointing out that there is now, from talking to Joel today, I think if I understood correctly, Dan, that you're thinking of proposing a county-wide initiative on this. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. And
It'd be great.
yeah, so anyway, yeah, broadband's in the water now. So
Do you want me to jump in now, or?
it's up to you. If you want to do it in your follow up now on broadband, that'd be great.
I guess I'll bring it up now since there's not a lot to say. It's just that, like everybody's been saying, it's very clear now that we can't ignore this issue anymore, especially in rural areas. And there are a lot of conversations happening. And I talked to a couple of town supervisors, and everybody's having this conversation. So, as seems obvious, we should be thinking bigger, either countywide or potentially regionally. There's a group called the Southern Tier 8. It's like a regional economic development agency. They're talking about it too. So I would expect that this conversation will just increase very quickly, very soon. And by this time next month, it wouldn't surprise me if we have some kind of plan to proceed.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Yeah.
Dan, can you loop me in to whoever else is part of these conversations?
Yes, sure. I can, and the only other thing I can say is that, today I contacted the county planning department to see what their thoughts were, because I know they're having their own conversations too, and if they thought that would be a good place for it to live. Maybe TCOG is a place for it to live. There's a lot of different places where it might live, and Irene, I'll loop you in as best I can. There are a lot of different people having a lot of separate conversations.
Great, thanks.
Other committee reports, or so that's exciting. It's exciting to see all this.
Yeah, it is. It's a hell of a thing that it took a pandemic to finally get that level of awareness. I don't have much to report this month other than to say that the Highway Barn Task Force is getting closer to being able to issue an RFQ to have some of, get some things evaluated on some of the properties that we're considering, or at least to get proposals for doing so. And so I hope in the near future to have something to bring back to the board to look at with that.
Great.
John, can I just ask a follow-up question out of curiosity, whether the task force also has been talking to neighboring towns about their buildings, etc.?
Not yet.
But that is.
There have been some conversations several months ago related to that, and so that will be certainly part of it, but it's not the next immediate step.
Great. Great. Okay, thank you.
And I think from highway, that's just an important thing for us is just, getting this task force and, things going on with the highway barns, moving along. The consulting help we need to help make our decision.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks, everybody. So now I will, Dan wanted to offer his report tonight, so I put him on the agenda. So go ahead, Dan. I know you already gave us part of it, but.
Great, thank you. Yes, the legislature canceled its meeting tonight, which is why I'm here at your agenda meeting. Normally, we always have a meeting at the same time as you. And just, the last little thing I'd say about the broadband internet is that, when I'm at your meetings by Zoom, in the background, I'm in the legislature chambers. I'm here because I don't have broadband at home. So it's not
I always
only,
wondered why you were, because I see the woodwork in the back, and I can tell that you're down there at the old courthouse.
that's right, it's not my living room. Yes, not only, it's not only like a community need, it's a personal need also. The only other choice I have is to park outside the Danby Town Hall, and I do some shorter meetings in my car, and I get made fun of a lot. Okay, every year the county legislature takes up the topic of exceeding the tax cap, and as you probably know, if a town board or a county legislature wants to do that, they have to advance, and we always do it as sort of insurance. So we say we're voting to exceed the tax cap, and then we either do or we don't. We usually don't. And then if we don't, then later on in December, we rescind the resolution that we made. So I'm telling you all that because August 18th, we're going to be voting on that, and it is a public hearing as is required by law. Earlier,
Well, this year you will probably be exceeding the tax cap.
not if I have anything to say about it.
Good for you.
Thank you. And I will briefly touch on that in a moment. See, we had furloughed, I think the final number was about 80 employees back in early June, late May. And most of them have come back now except for 17 employees. And we voted to continue their furlough through the end of the year. I actually voted against that resolution. The savings represented by that number is approximately $250,000, which is real money. But our fund balance at this time is approximately $45 million. And I just felt like for that small percentage of that, we could have used the fund balance to keep those employees. I voted that way. And I'm also mentioning the $45 million, approximately $45 million fund balance because we don't know yet what the size of the budget shortfall in 2021 is going to be. So I might have to take this back, what I'm about to say, but what I would prefer to do is basically do a 0% tax increase and use our fund balance.
Remind me what the size of the county budget usually is.
It's in the range of 150 million.
Okay.
So it's, no one knows what's going to happen next. I mean, that's just a given, right? No matter what anybody says, nobody really knows.
Right.
So we are undoubtedly are going to still be in bad shape next year. That's probably a safe thing to say. If a year from now or a year and a half from now, the economy still looks like it does, and our county government is in as bad shape in terms of revenue as it is right now, then then that might be the time to take some other drastic actions. But in the meantime, since we have this large fund balance, I believe this is what we should be using it for, to not lay off people and to not have a tax increase to the extent.
It's a savings account for tough times, and we're there.
It's hard to imagine in a tougher time.
Dan, I'm curious, in terms of that vote to furlough those remaining employees till the end of the year.
Yeah.
What was the score on that vote?
12-2.
That's feel free to pass this feedback back. That's disgraceful. And I know it's a hard vote, but when you look at what's happening at the federal level in terms of being able to extend a lifeline to families like that, for us to punt on it is absolutely disgraceful. And thank you for voting for those families.
Thanks. Yeah, I felt the same way. In the first round of furloughs, those employees got the extra $600 from the federal government. So most of them actually made a little more money than they did before. So I felt that was more justified. At this point, you know, we are providing health insurance or providing access to health insurance for those employees. That's a good thing, but they are taking a pay cut. And I guess the other part I didn't mention is that probably, well, the idea is that those same 17 employees will likely be laid off January 1st. So that remains to be seen, but that was stated publicly that, you know, this group is maybe on their way out.
Are those positions that are obsolete or unnecessary?
I think it would be better to say that those are ones that we could let go of and still provide the functions that we're doing.
Got it. Thank you.
So I jumped ahead to the 2021 budget, but we're still in 2020 because we haven't even really cracked open the 2020. Expecting $5 to $10 million shortfall in revenue below what was budgeted for 2020. And you know, we have some ideas about how to chip away at it a little further, but in the end, I'm also going to hold the line, at least for now.
Dan, what's the current number of the percentage drop of sales tax?
So it's running about a 33% drop. However, January, February, that was before COVID, so those came in more like normal, half of March. If I remember correctly, June ticked back up a little bit. So it's not exactly accurate yet to say 1/3 for the whole year, but that's the number I'm using in my head, 33%. If you, the town of Caroline, want to be safe, I would budget for 1/3 less of your normal sales tax revenue.
1/3 less, not 1/3 the amount.
Correct. I'm sorry. I probably said both things. Correct. 1/3 less.
Okay. 2/3 of the amount of last year.
2/3 of what? Yes, that's correct. 2/3 of what was budgeted.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. The only other last little things I wanted to mention. 2 weeks ago, it's 2 weeks old at this point, but our county Department of Health released some more detailed statistics about positive cases in this county. So obviously a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks. So this number is not completely accurate, but this was only the second time that they released a town by town breakdown. So at that point, 2 weeks ago, Caroline had 6 positive cases.
How many Danby had?
Also 6.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
I mean, I think so.
Yeah. Who's picking up the who's picking up the tab for all the testing?
Say that again, Tim.
I said
Who's
not good
picking
enough.
up the tab for all the testing? We both said the same thing. Tim, you go first.
I just said it's
correct. Dan, do you know who picks up the tab on all the testing the county's doing?
So it's
Federal
actually,
government?
No, it's actually not the county that's doing it. It's actually the hospital, Cayuga Health Systems, whatever they're called these days.
Okay.
And they, it's being, I don't know about all, but most is being covered by insurance. There was some issue where the insurance companies were trying not to reimburse the hospital for this testing, and the county helped intervene a little bit because we have better connections to the governor or
Good.
to the New York State, you know.
Good.
Government. So that's it. That is my report.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. With that, I will move on to, I put a couple of items for discussion only on tonight's agenda because they were issues that we had previously broached and I felt like we needed to keep the discussion going. So the first one is a discussion of the town hall grounds project. And at the July meeting, I presented the bid tabulation, and as you recall, so the winning bid was from Edger Enterprises for approximately $97,000 for, well, that was the higher end quote for the full repaving of the main lot with the removal of the old pavement, putting in a bioretention area, landscaping and planting, putting a sidewalk out to the midline road parking. So I think we all noticed the price tag and wondering about that. So after that meeting, Bobby Spencer, our highway superintendent, I don't know if he's here tonight. I don't see him, but he reached out to the Suit Coat that does the paving for the town on the state bid, and got a quote for paving the main lot that was lower than what the winning bidder itemized for that component by about it was about a quarter of the amount, so it was a lot less. And under that scenario, the highway department would there are these depressions, 4 evenly spaced depressions in the lot noticed. So those would be repaired by the highway department, and then Suit Coat would pave over those. So in the wake of that, then I had a meeting with Bobby, and then our engineer Donald Harner, and Barry Goodrich and Cal joined that meeting. So that was about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or 12 days ago. We met and discussed it. And so just to summarize, and a little bit repetitively, but so, you know, Dondi, our engineer, pointed out that there is value in a contract for a complete project that joins all the parts. And the 2 bids that we got this time were very close. So in that regard, we felt like it was a competitive bid. It was high. It's on the it's prevailing wage work. With Bobby's information that he could get Suit Coat to do the paving for quite a bit less, that brought forward the notion of that maybe we could do a lot of this to break it up and do it with town effort or some separate contracts. So and we did have a discussion. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at in my thinking. And so a couple of things have been brought up. So one is that the soils out front are fairly gravelly or sandy, and percolation is pretty quick, is pretty rapid. They are pervious soils. And so the idea of really withdrawing the bioretention part of the project and just smoothing it out, maybe planting grass. So that was offered as an alternative. So that the water would be filtered. The positive things that you get from a bioretention that I don't think necessarily would be provided by that, although I don't have numbers, but a bioretention feature is engineered to cleanse the water with the organic processes that are happening by the structure of the bioretention area. So there's the cleansing function of water, and the idea of these bioretention features is to promote stormwater management for installations, for projects that create impervious surfaces that deal with stormwater in a responsible way. The plantings can be, can enhance the aesthetics of the area. The downside need to be, you need maintenance. So, and especially early on, so I talked to John Negley and Angel Heinickel. Early on, you would need to weed periodically. So there might be volunteer effort needed. And one thought I had, if we do choose to go that route, maybe the watershed committee would be willing to take that on. So it's just it would be 4 or 5 people periodically for a couple hours. So that's something I want to put out there. I think a value, when Soil and Water presented this opportunity to us, they saw, here's a visible spot for people to see what a bioretention feature is, why it's important, and how it works. And so I think, my thinking from the beginning was that, this could not only do that, but it could add some enhancement to the town hall grounds. So, so that's that. My feeling right now is to, what I would like to propose is to proceed with putting in the bioretention area and maybe wait, see how it works before we do the planting, and then develop a planting plan with a county beautification grant that maybe we could do with the plantsman. And a part of the bioretention feature that I think we all felt was a nice part of it is on the side next to the parking lot, there's a 1 foot wide pea gravel diaphragm that would demarcate the edge of the parking lot nicely. So I'm advocating for retaining that, and Bobby mentioned to me that he thought the highway crew could at least level the grounds out front that was disturbed by the geothermal installation, and then we might, I don't know, then we could orchestrate. We'll need to add topsoil, and there would need to be planting of grass or something there as well.
Mark, would that involve also rock hounding the site?
I don't know. I guess I'd want to discuss that with Bobby, whether he thinks that's necessary or not. But I think that's something that could, we could do that certainly. But I just don't know what can be done with the site as is, if it can be smoothed and then just topsoil added. But yeah, possibly. So, and then there's the sidewalk, and I wanted to discuss that with Bobby as well, but obviously that's something we might also want to bid out separately. So that's where we're at. I figure the other thing Bobby said with the suit coat, he could add on the paving of the midline park and ride parking. So we would get that paved. I'm estimating if the main lot's 11,000, maybe for 15,000, we get those two lots paved. So Barry, helpful in discussing the pros and cons of various options, and he offered that the design now has, instead of concrete parking stops, then instead of that, having off the pavement, excuse me, large stones that demarcate each parking spot. So those would go at the edges of the parking lot, wouldn't interfere with plowing the lots. So those are my thoughts. And this is the, I don't know if you see it, there's the plan right there. Anyway, I do, so the first decision is whether we are going to chart this new path and not go with the lowest bidder. And then another decision to be made is whether we want to maintain the stick with the bioretention feature at the town hall grounds. And I did talk with John Negley today, and of course, you know, totally reasonably, he let me know that we would need to return the soil and water funds if we didn't proceed. So I'll open it up for any questions or discussion that you want. And I guess before we start, I don't know if maybe I'll ask Barry, do you want to offer any thoughts on this? And I guess if you do, you might want to, I'll ask him to unmute and see.
I guess at this time, I don't have any comments to make. I feel that I've let you and Bobby Spencer and others know how I think things should be done, but that doesn't mean that that's I guess I just feel that bioretention area is pretty costly for, it won't do anything more than the ground does right now. And it's simply a pretty thing with feel-good options. And I think money right now with this COVID thing and our lack of revenue coming in from sales tax and all of those kinds of things, we better look things over pretty carefully before we spend that kind of money on the bioretention area, which we can do that in other ways and still take care of the water. That's all I can contribute right now.
Okay, thank you, Barry. I'll just point out that, you know, I think Barry's talking about the Edger proposal had compartmentalized 20,000 for the bioretention, but I don't think I think under the new plan, it would be nowhere near that. So John Negley sent me a budget sheet for a much smaller bioretention area and said, you know, these really are not difficult to install. That one was put in for less than $1,000. So, and I've priced soil and mulch at Cayuga Compost. It's quite reasonable. So if we do want to do it, I think we can do it for a much more reasonable amount.
So Mark, would that mean that we would be able to do it within the framework of the soil and water grant that we have that we'd otherwise have to return?
Yes. Yeah, if we do it,
cost about that amount of money, you don't think it would be more?
Yeah, that's what I think. Yep, I do think that.
Well, that's a game changer. I pulled into the parking lot today and observe what, you know, stormwater runoff and things like that were. And
I did that too.
Yeah,
cool.
And I saw your car there, but I didn't have time to come in. But, you know, the water runs off, and it's not like I don't see ponding water that's been looking for a place to go. I've always been told that a good sod is a good runoff control measure because it stops the water, it works like a wet sponge, and then releases it after the storms have passed. And I think that's the value in having a good just turf in front of, you know, the area. We'd have a good sized grassy patch. And then I just, you know, I look over at the spring and, you know, that's pumping out about 1,400 gallons of water a day on the ground. And, you know, it just, the soils there, I think the water pretty well percolates down through. I think the soil structure is considered good permeable there. But I just, you know, looking at the asphalt and, you know, there's a little bit of a dish to the whole thing so that if it was bought up and leveled real well so that it drained to the grassy areas, I think we've got kind of, if you will, Mother Nature's bio a good sod there. I didn't see any water running to the drop inlet that was at the corner of Midline and 79. So, but for me, you know, if it's a scaled back retention pond, just so long as we know that it's going to be managed and maintained. You know, some of the plantings I kind of wonder about just some sugar maples, just like that are over there by.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And sugar maples are easy to come by around here. All you have to do is go out in the woods and dig them.
Yep.
And they do well. They tolerate, well, they obviously do well in the soils right there because of what we've got in front of the town hall. But I think, I mean, for me, it's a big difference if we can do something for 6,000 instead of 20.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up the price of renting a rock hound. It's about $400 for a week.
Yeah.
Which isn't, you know,
Right.
That's just the rock hound.
Yeah.
So in terms of getting the front lawn as it is now, I mean, there's just, you know, weeds and things have got established. There's going to be a little bit of a trick to cleaning that up.
Wait. Point of correction there. Those are wildflowers.
Excuse me. Remember that corn is a weed in a soybean field. That's my perspective. So anyway, yes, and burdocks are just poor soil trying to heal itself, as Liberty High Bailey said. That's why I've got so many burdocks up here.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Okay.
But I think a good sod, you know, leveled off, and well, there's a good bioretention right there that's not sloped so that the water isn't running. You know, just a good level turf is a good addition to it. And then, you know, we've got all the water that runs off the roofs and stuff. I don't know if that's just going on the ground, and then just having that in mind too, that gets.
We could channel it anywhere we want. I think right now it goes into the catch basin.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Cal.
I just want to make sure I have it right because there was a lot of verbiage, a lot of plans.
So blah, 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 blah. Sorry.
COVID's made me blunt. But Mark, so what I'm hearing you say is you are advocating that we split out the parking lot paving project from the bigger proposal that we had looked at, that would likely be done by the highway department in coordination with Suitcoat. Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Right. And that we would then proceed and perhaps a little bit scaled back, which you believe we can do for much less money than the original proposal of $20,000. How'd I do?
You did great. And I think
Okay.
I think that's exactly right.
Okay.
John, and also it would not include the refurbishing of the old pavement in the parking lot. That would not be, you know, scooped out and redone. It would just be paving over the existing parking lot. There seems to be the relief at the edges to do that without huge, you know, it's not like it's making a big bump or drop off, or it can be feathered.
Yeah, the paving, so we had the basic paving plan before was to repair the bird bath, quote unquote, and then pave over the whole thing with that repair. And that was also the plan in the 2018 bid document. So that was deemed, you know, perfectly doable.
It's a wash.
Yeah, so, yeah. So, and then Cal was, I think Cal was advocating for lawn instead of a bioretention. Is that correct, Cal? Or lawning a bioretention, or?
For me, if the bioretention was going to come to 20,000, I would definitely be much more for just let's do it, try to do it with lawn. But if we can do a scaled back thing that is within the scope of the grant that we'd have to return if we didn't do, I think having the a scaled back bioretention that can be funded within the limits of the grant, I'm fine with that. But, you know, I think it's just, it is imperative that we just get a good lawn down with a good sod. And I think that's, I think there's a great bioretention right there.
Yeah.
In addition to.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I wasn't for spending 20,000 to do a bioretention. I think
Right.
the cost benefit analysis in my estimation, I mean, what's the value of clean water? I mean,
Yeah. Okay. So I
Ask
think,
Flint, Michigan, right?
yes.
yeah. Okay.
But
Irene.
if we can do it for 6,000, then that
Okay.
and if it doesn't work out, then we can either fill it in and plant some grass seed on it or do something else
Yeah. Okay.
down the road.
I'm for not doing the retention pond at all. Give the money back and let it go to a need that is a more pressing need. It doesn't strike me as this is anything pressing. I think that having to reconfigure how we're doing the retention pond is just going to cause more delays. I just want to get this thing done, get the lawn rock hounded and seeded, get the parking lot paved, and call it a day. This has just been going on for a really long time, and I'm
And the sidewalk built.
yeah, and the sidewalk done. But I don't see doing a scaled back retention pond that's going to take how many more meetings and, you know, phone calls and coordination to plan and to line up the volunteers to weed it. And as Cal said, you know, if it doesn't work out, we can fill it in. It's just get it rock hounded, get it seeded, get it done. I appreciate the suit coat option. I'm glad that Bobby looked into that. But I don't see, you know, just because we got grant money, you know what, we all know that everybody's going to be hurting, and I think that that we shouldn't be keeping grant money for a project that isn't an essential thing right now. I think that money could be put to better use, and if it means it's put to better use in some other town, so be it.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, I had just thought that if we could do a smaller bioretention rapidly and quickly with money that we have, that it could be a worthwhile feature, especially since before I got on the board, that had been part of the plan of action, but I don't have personally, you know, major investment one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I would like, if we end up doing grass, I would like it properly rock hounded.
Mm-hmm.
I would like that to be done properly instead of just throwing some stuff on the ground.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks for your thoughts. I understand I think very well the frustration over the length of the time that this has taken, and so yeah, and I've actually flip-flopped back and forth on you know, the merits of one over the other. So
Mark, are you admitting that you're a flip-flopper?
yeah, you guys know that, right?
No.
That's your frustration, right? So
Let's just try and get it done in 2020.
absolutely, Cal. That's absolutely right. So it is. So I guess so. The first thing I'm going to say is I'm since we haven't taken any action, I'm not asking for a vote. At this point, I'm pretty sure that I'm reading you all that that we're good declining the proposals that were submitted to this RFP.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to do that since the winning bidder is asking. So I am going to go ahead and do that.
Mark,
Well,
I
we've got somebody-
want to just find out, in the RFP that was issued, did it offer an option of just paving over what's there?
Yeah, that was the that was
And so Suit Coat came in lower than paving over what's there.
yeah.
Much lower.
I mean, I see your question, Irene, and it's a good one. So I do not know. So the bid document has precise specifications for the pavement, and I don't know if Suit Coat's specifications are the same as what's in the bid document. Bobby assured me that they can do a great job. That's as much as I know. So I don't know that it's completely apples to apples.
I'd like to just say that if we had the opportunity of partnering with the highway department,
yeah,
this project, which we had hoped some time ago might be an ideal situation, I think it's a great opportunity. It could open up doors.
Yep.
And I'm really all in favor of that.
Yeah, and I'm glad Bob spoke up last month and, you know, reacted as John did to the paving price, and he got a quote.
Do we have to do an RFP for the front yard? Then just somebody to rock out, or whatever needs to be done to get a good. And I agree very much with Tim. We want to, want it done right and a good, solid turf established there. And that ought to be done by October 10th. I mean, that's kind of experience in agriculture. Just we ought to have it. Ought to be done by the first week in October.
Yeah. So again, I want to talk to Bob, but based on my conversations with the engineer and everybody today, I think an order of doing these things would be the bioretention and grounds work, the sidewalk, and then the paving as the last item. And so we'd probably
we could do the turf next spring. I mean, I guess.
I'd like to try to do it all this fall. I
would too, but I just if we have to 1, 2, 3, I'd put getting the turf in as number 4.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Possibly, yeah. So
if I had to break it down, itemize it, get the paving done.
Yeah, Bobby said, I think he thought he could get Suit Coat here in late August for the paving. So,
great.
That would be sweet. We have to coordinate that with whatever we do. If we're going to do this pea gravel diaphragm, which Barry and I both think is a nice feature, and I don't know, maybe if, I think what we still, we need to decide whether we're going to go with some sort of bioretention or just lawn. And I'm actually inclined to go with lawn, maybe with some plantings, like you said, Cal. It would be great to have some shade near the parking lot. So
I think there's great value in that. I mean, it's going to be a few years, but
yeah. So so anyway, I think we can. It'll depend on what our estimated cost is. How we have to, if it's not too high, I don't have a purchasing policy in front of me. But for some things, we just need to get a couple of proposals.
Yep.
I think if it's over $20,000, we're going to have to put it out to bid, something like that. So I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
But I think we can do that right away. We already have we basically have the bid document. We just chop up the one we have.
Yeah.
And send it out. So so good. Okay, I think we've got this, and maybe what I'll do, Cal, is call a meeting of the unofficial grounds committee that met last time, maybe later this week, and we can get together with Bobby and
good,
and sharpen the plan. So does that sound good, everybody? Okay, good. Thanks for your thoughts. We're gonna get there. All right. And the next thing I put on the agenda, and Chris West is here, at least unless she had to go to bed or something. No, there she is. So
I'm here.
Yeah, hi, Chris. So so I thought I would open it up for any. So Chris was kind enough to join us. If we have any further questions, I did talk to Chris this morning, and so. And the proposal and presentation are posted at the town website. So I guess I'll just start off by saying, I did voice my concern, and some of the people on the meeting tonight, will maybe be shocked, but my concern about a compelling town purpose for the town in addition to what's already there. So the wetlands, most of the properties are wetlands, and they are DEC protected wetlands. And so that's one thing I'm struggling. And so yeah, but I don't want to. I think I'll stop my comments there and open it up for any questions the board might want to ask Chris, or any thoughts they might want to share.
Chris,
well, go ahead.
Chris, would you have any thoughts about the ecological advantages to the town and taking it over, in contrast to the status quo?
Yeah, I think Mark raises a really good point. Most of the property is classified wetland. Expert in wetland regulations, I'll put that right out there. But there is a nice buffer around that wetland of intact vegetation. And my understanding of the regulations, and I may be wrong, is that you can't build something in the wetlands, you can't change their hydrology, but you could certainly change the character of the vegetation surrounding that wetland. And when you have natural vegetation next to a wetland, it provides a better functional it provides better function in terms of water filtration and stormwater attenuation. So there are some benefits there. If it stays in private ownership, somebody could just, have mowed lawn down to the wetland, or create a pasture for livestock that may have some impacts on the water quality.
I'll just ask Chris, so for a private individual taking out a conservation easement, you were explaining to me the tax advantages of that. Could you explain that to the board, how that works?
Sure.
Okay.
So when a private individual either donates or partially donates a conservation easement on their property and it qualifies as a charitable contribution, New York State provides a tax incentive in the form of an income tax credit that's equal to 25% property taxes that the landowner pays on that land. So the way that works is a landowner would have to add up the taxes that they pay on the conservation easement. This does not include any taxes that are paid on buildings or any other structures.
Mm-hmm.
But New York State will give them 25% of that back, first credited towards any income tax that they owe in New York State. And if they don't owe New York State income taxes, then they will send them a check for that amount.
Mm-hmm.
It's an annual benefit, and it's capped at a maximum of $5,000 per year.
Great. Okay.
So Chris, just so I understand it, by annual benefit, that means that they would get this rebate annually in perpetuity?
Yeah, the way the law is currently written, it's an annual benefit to whomever owns the land. So that means it would be eligible for the original donor and subsequent landowners. The benefit to local municipalities is that the landowner continues to pay whatever their assessed taxes are. And it's New York State that provides that tax credit back to them through their income tax credit.
So that would be an alternative to the donation of the land to the town. Is that what I'm understanding?
So far in my conversations with the landowners, they are not interested in retaining ownership of the wetlands. They would prefer to sell them. So the way that this project is currently structured, we would use grant funds that we receive from New York State, the Water Quality Improvement Project program. We received grant funds to protect water quality in 6 Mile Creek, to pay the landowners for up to 75% of the appraised value of the property. The land trust would acquire that wetland in fee and then transfer ownership of the land to the town, subject to the conservation easement. So our interest in transferring ownership is rooted in the fact that we're a regional land trust, and we see the need for conservation only expanding across the region. And where we can engage partners, we really try to engage partners to help us achieve mutually beneficial goals. And we thought that the town of Caroline would be interested in entertaining this idea. The project seemed to be very much in line with the goals of the comprehensive plan. And also, I was interested to learn at the last meeting the climate resilience study that the town has undertaken. This project would help serve some of the goals identified in that as well.
So Mark, I'm still trying to understand what your concerns are. I get it that it's already protected wetland and we're just looking at a strip of land on the border. But so what?
Okay.
So
then,
I don't understand what the concern is as to why we wouldn't do this just because it's already protected wetland. You had indicated something in your email about setting a precedent and that there's going to be a lot of these in Caroline, and I'm not sure I understand what the precedent is and what your concern is.
well, I mean, it would, the precedent would be that for the town taking ownership of any protected wetland. So, you know, and I think that's a question that
Well, it's not any protected wetland, right? I mean, this is under the circumstance of a wetland that the land trust thinks is has, you know, particular merit and value above and beyond the protections that are already afforded through DEC.
Yeah.
But what about the wetland here and another wetland there? And maybe there's a lot of, you know, wet parcels around the town. And, you know, I guess what comes to my mind is you do for one, you have to do for another.
Well, I would say if they're being contemplated as part of the you know, Emerald Necklace or whatever, you know, the Finger Lakes Land Trust views this as being part of. I mean, if the land trust is interested in providing, is it, what do you call it, Chris, an easement or, you know, whatever you're providing to these owners. If the land trust is interested in the wetland and preserving it, not this one, but say some other one somewhere's in the town. If the land trust is interested in it, why wouldn't we partner with the land trust to make it happen? I don't understand what the slippery slope is that you're worried about, Mark.
Well, it transfers that tax burden to the rest of the taxpayers of Caroline, right? So, or it transfers that tax amount, I don't want to say that other word, to the rest of the taxpayers in Caroline. So, I mean, as far as, I mean, I could imagine any property that has 6 Mile Creek running through it, you know, that's a pretty valuable wetland. And so, I mean, that's the, I mean, it seems like there are a lot of wetlands in Caroline that drain pretty quickly.
And if they're being proposed as part of something that the land trust is looking to protect, and I don't see us doing this for every wetland everywhere in Caroline and just taking ownership of it.
No, but I mean, Chris has said that, you know, this isn't, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but like one reason you're looking to partner on this, or, you know, looking for the town to take ownership is that, and why the land trust doesn't want to do so is because it's not part of, like, you know, the any kind of a core initiative or purpose. Is that correct? That's what I understood you said a couple times or explained.
No, I don't think I would say that this isn't part of a core initiative. So this wetland, this wetland is actually a through valley wetland. So it drains the property that we're talking about actually drains to 6 Mile Creek. And the land trust has been very active in conservation in 6 Mile Creek since our inception almost. It's been a focus area for us for many, many years. In fact, we hold, I think, more than 24 conservation easements in the 6 Mile Creek watershed. So protection of water quality in 6 Mile Creek is absolutely a focus for us.
Okay.
I mean, I tend
I
to,
think,
sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was just going to say the reason we're looking for a partner for this particular project is that whereas on those other 24 projects, it was a conservation easement. The landowners in this particular case are interested in transferring ownership. And we don't have the capacity to take on the ownership of the land. We certainly would be able to monitor and enforce a conservation on it, which is a very different thing than the ownership aspect. Well, a local partner like the town would be better able to just basically keep an eye on the place.
And what are the concerns with ownership of the land trusts?
Well, because we cover 12 counties, we actually own and manage a network of over 35 nature preserves, and we do that with a full-time land steward, and a cadre of over 200 volunteers across the region. And just as you all know, just owning any piece of land comes with it comes with a certain amount of responsibility. The property,
Hey, Daisy.
I gotta mute my phone. It comes with some responsibility in terms of posting and responding if there's any issues that arise. Developing and maintaining good relationships with neighbors, those kind of things.
Can you remind me what the acreage size of this was?
57.
Because on the assessments website, they only listed wetland as 5 acres. It must be other properties too. I just Googled her 6 Thomas Road.
Yeah, that's just one of the properties, Cal.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, so I figured it had to be.
Can I just weigh in that I still remain very interested in partnering with the land trust and am thankful that about their interest in continuing to partner with the town. And I think that there's a lot about this project that does speak directly to the ethos of the comprehensive plan and the revised comprehensive plan. It's also kind of this is a bad pun, but a watershed area in the town.
You're okay, you're forgiven.
We're not talking, I mean, it's directly center in the town. It's a rather heavily traveled area. It's also,
it's just pretty.
And the wetland is also has a long history for amphibian habitation and use, which has been very, very important to a group of nature activists in the town. So I'm personally quite comfortable with our considering moving forward with this. I mean, I think that the cost to the town for this is very minimal. It might well be that it might be time for us to start thinking about town conservation strategies, whether that be in our forest or elsewhere, but maybe if that's a concern, this could provide an impetus for thinking about that in the future. It's just kind of where I'm thinking.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful piece of ground.
I don't see a lot of downside to this. And I'm not that concerned about precedent because we have the ability as a board, whether this board or a future board, to evaluate each opportunity on its own merits and in the context of its time. But I don't see a downside to this.
I'm wondering about the ownership responsibilities that Chris mentioned. That we don't currently own or manage any any parklands or anything like that. So
We probably have to have, do we have to have some additional liability insurance or not? Or would that just be kind of covered in general liability?
I mean, would it be, I mean, would it, yeah, I don't know. So if we just posted it and then left it alone, is that?
Yeah, or just, I don't know. I mean, I hear, at least as a landowner's horror stories, somebody's snowmobiling and something happens and, you know, some bad happens and because you didn't do something, you're sued because of an attractive nuisance or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember the recreational use statute.
Yeah.
You know, as long as we're reasonable, if we don't charge a fee or, you know, I think we're fairly well protected there. So.
Okay.
Mark, as much as I appreciate your concern and care for the welfare of the town, it sounds to me like you might be making an argument for us to accept the offer.
Could be.
Yeah. Okay. Irene?
Yeah, I don't want to make light of the things that Mark is concerned about. Is there any pressing timeline on this, Chris, or would we be able to check in with our attorney and our insurance company and get back to you?
I think it's important for you to do your due diligence and absolutely speak with the town attorney and look into the insurance issues. I don't think we want it to drag on for months, but yeah, if you want to continue the deliberations, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions I can. I do want to just kind of clarify one point. There was, I think, somebody in the public comment period, and then again, one of you as a board member said, it's important to protect because the land trust says this is important to protect. And I want to say that the land trust, when we assess natural resources and develop conservation agendas and look at, how do we prioritize areas that should, because we do have limited resources, just like the town does. We do very heavily rely on other experts. So the fact that part of this wetland is part of a Tompkins County unique natural area is something that weighs heavily in favor. The fact that it's part of a municipal water supply, that is a fact that weighs heavily for us. So, but again, it's not, we're not standing there on our own. We're relying very heavily on public information and assessments made by other independent parties.
And I just, thank you, Chris. And also, yeah, not calling for a decision tonight. I just wanted to keep the conversation going because I knew that, the land trust, in order to take the next step, needs to know our decision. So, and Chris was willing to join us and provide information. So,
Yeah.
but I think we should, we could put it on the agenda for the business meeting and.
Yeah, I think, Mark, if we can make a plan, I don't know, you or me or somebody to check in with Guy and with our insurance company between now and next week and just find out, is there anything we're not thinking about here that we need to? And as long as, there's not any red flags, I can't see why we wouldn't go ahead with this. And I agree with John. I think he stated it well that, this board or future boards can continue to evaluate any parcel that somebody wants to give the town on its merits and in the context of what's happening within the town and within the world at that point in time.
And I guess for me, another question for Guy might be, what if future boards decide, well, we don't want to own this? What happens?
Maybe Chris can answer that.
So there is a provision in the conservation easement that ownership could be transferred because the land is being purchased with public funds and donated to the town. There's a prohibition against selling it. So it wouldn't necessarily be, you know, you couldn't flip it.
Right.
But yeah, you could transfer it to another owner if there were another appropriate partner that were interested in owning and managing the property, like a local college or the local school district, or, you know,
Or Tompkins County, maybe.
yeah, exactly, or the city of Ithaca, or yeah.
No, we're not having the city of Ithaca own land in Caroline. I draw the line there.
But the conservation easement itself would remain in place. The restrictions and the protections would remain in place.
But ownership could transfer to an appropriate entity.
That's correct.
Great. Okay. So yeah, so we'll put it on the agenda for next week's meeting, and
And Mark, will you be able to follow up, or do you want one of us to follow up?
I would like to do that. I'll do it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that's great. Thank you, everybody, for your thoughts.
Thank you. I'll plan on attending next week.
Great. Thanks, Chris. I'll send you the Zoom announcement, and thank you so much for traveling by Zoom.
I love this. I feel like I'm just saving so much carbon from going into.
I know. I feel the same way. Oh. I totally agree. Yeah.
There's some bright sides to COVID.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Great. Take care, Chris.
Good night, Chris.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good discussion. So with that, I'll move forward for approval of the minutes of July 15th. And I already offered Jesse one little tiny tweak mind about that, but anybody has any thoughts about the July 15th minutes?
No,
Well, let's approve them.
Yeah.
You're good? Okay, so offer resolution to approve the minutes of July 15th, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll second it since we need a second.
Oh yeah, John seconded it after the vote, and after the vote, yay. Opposed? Okay, great, thanks. So agenda items for next week's meeting, I'll put the consideration of the Thomas Road Conservation Agreement on tap, on deck. I may have, depending on what I hear from Dan and Joel, a resolution in support of a broadband committee at some level, either multi-town or countywide.
Do we need something formal about what we'll do with the town hall grounds?
What I'd like to do with the town hall grounds, did I say this already, Cal? That could, as far as about the bids that are in?
That, or just, we're going to proceed with the suit coat paving and, just a plan of action.
That's not a bad idea. So
can I recommend, Mark, then that on the agenda for sure is the suit coat
the suit coat
portion, and then if we're ready to move ahead with the whole thing, we can. Otherwise, we can get this going piecemeal.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. So I'll talk to Bobby about suit coat. And there were some public comments that asked pointed questions about what we're going to be doing or what we have been doing. So I will formulate, I guess we should consider addressing those concerns.
I mean, it sounds like there are members of the public who would like the board to be taking action outside of the context of considering and approving the revised comprehensive plan, which the board is involved in ushering forward with fair rapidity, pretty quickly. And I personally am comfortable with presenting to the public that that's, from my perspective, the action in relationship to the pause that's appropriate, and that at the same time that doesn't preclude us, which I've been doing, from beginning to investigate other options. But I don't think that we're in a position to consider any other options until we deal with the comprehensive plan. And I'm very concerned about the focus on the comprehensive plan potentially getting distracted or bifurcated by other actions that might be related to it. That's just where I kind of feel about it. I've been in a lot of conversations about this in the past 2 weeks.
I have to agree with that. I found those comments particularly puzzling. I feel that the board took the action that our community was hoping we would take. I think it was a well-reasoned action, and I think we have a mechanism for doing the next step, and we're doing exactly what the moratorium is intended to do. But I think if we start to get involved in sort of extracurricular areas, I think we potentially created too many cooks in the kitchen situation that takes away from the very thoughtful work that's been done by the planning board. And I think we would be not wise to do that.
Great. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. That,
okay.
We may end up, I don't know. I think you guys have articulated it well, but I don't want to see any kind of fervor over something that distracts from or spills over into consideration of the comprehensive plan. I want the comp plan and the ideas that are put forward in it to be considered on their merits and not to be tainted or whatever by other activities in the town.
Which doesn't mean that we shouldn't be poised to move forward in different directions as quickly as possible once we hear from the public about the comprehensive plan.
Absolutely.
But we haven't heard anything from the public yet about the comprehensive plan because the public hasn't seen it.
Right. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, Tim.
Yeah, I do too. I agree with all of you on this. So, but I do want to, so.
A couple other ideas. Anything from Casey and streetlights?
Yeah, so.
I mean, I was late, maybe it already came up, but sorry.
No, but I'll pack it in my report next week to just put it in Nugget now. I did send off, we authorized payment for the purchase of facilities. I packaged that with the poll tag ID, and they're going to provide us an invoice for the amount to cover the security device installations that we required to provide, and contact information. So that's been done, and Casey should be providing us a maintenance agreement for review. It's overdue now, but so anyway, it's in process, and I should be meeting on Friday by Zoom if you want to join with the group, and we certainly welcome to join.
I will if I can.
Okay.
John, do you think there's a chance our highway task force would get together before next Wednesday?
I think that would be challenging with
A
my
little
schedule.
optimistic.
Yeah. Is now that I've gotten Bobby to sort of sign off on the RFQ, I would like to pull in the other task force members to look at it, and then I'd like to issue it,
Okay,
and then pull us together to look at what comes in. If you can
Okay.
get me that email address we emailed about, that would help my cause.
he doesn't do email, he just does text messages, and I sent you his phone number, or I can kind of converse with him. Maybe if you just send me the info and then I'll
If you could print it, and that'd be great, Cal. Perfect.
I'll do it. I'll just be the messenger.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
And then I just want to put on the radar, and you know, Mark, I imagine this is already on your radar, that we're starting into our budget planning season as well.
Yes,
So
I was going to mention that. So
typically this would be, you know, this month or September would be the time that, you know, that we get our budget requirements for our various departments and committees.
the budget requests are going out this week, so you should have that by the end of the week. And I could put on the agenda for next week, and was going to suggest this, that we could discuss the budget. It was interesting to hear from Dan tonight, so that was really helpful about what I didn't understand that previously. So that really helps my thinking quite a lot. So so anyway, yeah, we could I'll send out budget requests in the next couple days, and
good,
we can go
Yeah.
from there. So
And-
I'll put budget discussion on the agenda.
Okay. And I'm just wondering, before we adjourn this meeting, do we have anything of a personnel update? Should we be having an exec session for an update there? Tonight, I'm not talking about next week.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, I didn't know if there were any
No,
updates. Okay.
I don't think so. And then I wanted to ask who's on board for signing, reviewing abstracts next week. Does anybody remember?
I know I'm up. I don't know who else is.
I did them last time, but
I'm supposed to be on
So it's
vacation.
the west end of the table,
I guess
if you
I'll
all remember.
come back from my vacation an hour early or something and go do them.
Jim, I'll do it for you. You just have to do it for me sometime.
I will. Cal, will you do that for me? That'd be great.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you,
Are you,
Jeff.
I'm
are
happy
you
to
off on a
do that.
vacation? How nice.
Well, supposedly.
He's walking there.
Supposed to be on vacation right now.
I've heard your backyard is lovely this time of year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know, all of us with our staycations,
Yeah.
our perpetual staycations.
How is this formula business restrictions rules handled by the town? Is this something that's, it's been bantered around, but just the peculiar or the particulars of it? Is that something? I think it's from what
That's something that is a possible proposal for action in the revised comprehensive plan, amongst many other things. So
this should come through the comprehensive
feeling about
plan.
this is that it would be appropriate for it to come through the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
I can say that I have written the Association of Towns just to get information about other towns that might have any of these. I haven't heard back yet.
And how they handle them. I mean, it just
If-
seems that
If
it's
there
surface,
are
it seems.
in New York, who knows, So it's something that I believe that the planning board also might,
Support it.
after they're done with it,
Bless you.
also might be interested in looking into it, but all of this is just still quite premature from my point of view.
Well, we got to start somewhere.
Well, getting information about anything, I mean,
Yep.
Yeah, I
I
think information
think-
gathering is fine. And,
I think we should be gathering
some of the people that,
information also about comprehensive land use policies as well, so that the more information that we have in October, November, the better poised we're going to be in what situation we move forward.
Yep.
and and then by that time, and that would also give us some sense of the time, some potential time schedules that might involve. So
Yeah.
by all means, we should be thinking about these things, but I think penning them or activating on them at this stage really could undercut the power of the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Right, okay. So we did receive a written privilege of the floor statement from another resident today, so I'll be reading that, and then compiling the collective thoughts for next week's meeting as you've articulated them. So thank you. All right. Is there anything else people would like to discuss? So if there isn't.
Ice cream?
Ice cream, yeah. I'm gonna have blueberry pie, so.
Second.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll second that too.
Seconded by Tim, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody that joined our meeting tonight. Good night.
Good night.
Yep.
Night.
Good night, all.